I'm a cop who arrested a woman after she called 911 on her husband. The body cam footage changed department policy forever. The moment I knew something was wrong wasn't when dispatch called in a domestic violence report. It wasn't even when I pulled up to the suburban home with its perfectly manicured lawn and saw a man with blood streaming down his face sitting quietly on the porch steps. It was when he looked up at me with swollen eyes and said, "Officer, I didn't want to fight back. I was taught never to hit a woman after 15 years on the force. I've responded to hundreds of domestic calls. They typically follow a predictable pattern, but this one would change how our entire department handled these cases." The call came in at 2:17 a.m. Female complainant reporting her husband had assaulted her during an argument. Priority response. My partner and I arrived within 4 minutes. The man on the porch, Payne, mid-30s, well-dressed, despite the hour. Payne had a broken nose, a rapidly swelling eye, and defensive wounds on his forearms. Capic victim presentation, except he wasn't the one who called 911. "Can you tell me what happened tonight, sir?" I asked, activating my body camera. His story came out haltingly. His wife had been drinking and accused him of texting another woman. When he showed her his phone to prove his innocence, she became enraged, grabbed a tennis racket from their sports closet, and began hitting him repeatedly. He'd only pushed her away after the third or fourth blow, causing her to stumble backward. She told me she was calling the police and that I'd better leave, he explained. But my wallet and keys are inside and I was afraid to go back in. My partner stayed with him while I approached the house. The front door swung open before I could knock. Finally, "I want him arrested immediately," demanded a woman in designer pajamas, pointing toward her husband. He pushed me into the wall. I noticed 3 things simultaneously: the broken tennis racket on the floor behind her, the lack of any visible injuries on her person, and the strong smell of alcohol on her breath. "Ma'am, I'd like to hear your side of the story," I said calmly. Her version matched her husband's surprisingly closely, except for one critical detail turned in her telling. He pushed her for no reason when I asked about the broken racket. She hesitated before admitting she might have hit him with it because she was frustrated with his lies. Then came the question that changed everything. "Did you hit your husband before or after he pushed you?" She looked directly into my body camera and said, "Before, obviously, but that's not the point. He's bigger than me, so when he pushed me, it was assault." 20 minutes later, I was placing handcuffs on the complainant, not her husband. She screamed the entire way to the station about how we were taking his side and how she'd have our badges. The next morning, my sergeant called me into his office. I assumed I was in trouble. Instead, he showed me an email from the department legal team. They had reviewed my body camera footage and were implementing a new training protocol for domestic violence called Part 1 that emphasized objective evidence gathering regardless of who made the initial call. 6 months later, the woman pled guilty to domestic assault. Her husband filed for divorce and started a support group for male domestic violence victims at our community. I still think about that case whenever I respond to domestic calls. It taught me that assumptions are the enemy of justice and that sometimes the person reaching out for help isn't the one who actually needs it, because victims don't always look the way we expect them to, and the truth is rarely as simple as the first story we hear.